we're going to get started rigging up for float fishing. First thing you need is some leader. I mean, you can use whatever kind you want, as long as it's fluorocarbon. I guess any brand you want. I like Seeger. Red Label's a little bit cheaper than the regular stuff, but works just fine. I usually use 6-pound tests. The other thing you need, of course, as far as I'm concerned, is a knot that connects your main line to your leader, or in my case, a swivel. Small one. I've got a surefire way to measure out the amount of line I need. Pretty straightforward. My wingspan, 66 inches. Bam. 5.5 feet. That's what I use as a leader. That's how I measure it out. Get the same length each time. Okay. Getting the float on the main line, coming down from your rod, straight forward. Little plastic stay for the top of the float. In place. Stay at the bottom. Usually a tiny hole at the bottom of these things. String your line through it. Through the stay. Now, swivel and leader. Clinch knot. I like to trim up the tag line. Always seems to get in the way or grab ice when the weather gets cold. The less thing you have hanging out, the better. Okay, ready to go to the stream and get this thing adjusted as far as weight. Now obviously your bait's going to pull down the bobber, but usually not enough to make the bobber actually ride upright in the water. You want this thing to float on the surface of the water. You don't want it laying on it. I'll show you what I mean. When you make a cast, without enough weight, you're going to have that bobber laying on the surface on its side. So you have to have enough bait, split shot, something below the bobber to make it sit upright. I'll show you what it looks like whenever it's sitting upright. Okay, this is what you're trying to achieve. You're getting the float, the bobber's riding in the water like that. Regardless of the overall style or configuration of the bobber, you want it to sit upright. And here's another style, the pencil bobber. Line through the rubber stay at the top and at the bottom, then down to your bait. Guess what you're trying to do now is you're going to try to achieve that bobber standing up in the water. And I'll show you the problem. That is what you don't want. You don't want that pencil bobber laying on its side. So you've got to start to add weight down below it until you get it to stand up in the water. That's the way you want to fish it. Alright, here's what you're trying to achieve. Straight up and down. Steelhead comes along and touches that, you're going to know it. Okay, here's some added stuff, I guess, to go along with the floats. Just some tips that I've learned over the years. First of all, when we talked about floats, didn't say anything about split shot, but I like micro shot. Those little black puppies that are round, and they come in various sizes. Some are almost too small for you to crimp onto your line. That's how tiny they are. But I prefer those when I can, because they just seem to be a little bit more invisible in the water. But literally you can put just about any kind of split shot you like on your line. But the micro shot is just something that's a little bit better, I think. So you definitely got to have split shot with you. There's something else that's kind of good to have along with you when you're up in Erie, is extra tips. I always carry extra tips with me when I'm fishing, because I have snapped them off And I got some of the glue. You set it on fire, get it all gummy, lather that on the top of your rod, slide the tip in place, and once it hardens, you're back in fishing business. Or you can go with some crazy glue, which is the basically the lazy man's way of doing it. Drop this stuff on that tip, back onto your rod, you're back in business instantly. Trouble with the crazy glue is if you decide to adjust this thing later on, you may find yourself with a problem because that stuff really holds. Something else to think about. I'm talking about split shot. If you're going to go to New York and fish on the Indian ground, the reservations, they don't allow you to use lead split shot. You've got to buy some of the eco shot. And tungsten, it's pretty expensive, but that's what you need. So I carry some of this just in case we make a trip to some place where they outlaw the shot. And something else, this gizmo's basically for holding fish. It helps you control them when you're getting the hook out of their mouth. I carry this all the time. I also carry a landing net. The landing net kind of stops them in the water. This helps me get a hold of them without lipping them or touching their gills, and it helps me get the hook out. If you call this thing a boga, it's 120 bucks. If you call it a fish lip or a Bass Pro Shop, it costs you about 25. It's just a matter of how much you want to spend for one of these things. It also has a scale built into it so you can weigh the fish if you hold them up out of the water. Something good to have along. Something else a friend of mine named Eric showed me. He's got Parkinson's disease, and you know, we're older guys now and we have a tendency to shake a little bit. I got a buddy who does the same thing. This thing he picked up at Radio Shack, I'm not sure if you can see it or not. It's got a little bit of a curved pin that comes out on the back side, and he uses that to attach it to the shank of a hook. That way he's got something a little bit better to hold on to when he's stringing the line through and tying it on, because you know, if you've got a problem with being steady when you're putting the hook on, a lot of times you're dropping hooks, can't find them again, it's just a pain. And so that, I thought that was kind of neat. I don't use it all the time because I'm not as bad as some guys that are older like us, but I keep it just for that future day when I start to use it because I have to. I tie a lot of jigs, and I know that everybody uses head cement. I used to have some problems with head cement. I'd get to fooling around with this stuff, and I'd get some of it on the cap itself, and eventually after tying some jigs, flies, I'd put this thing away and actually end up gluing the lid to the top of the bottle. And trust me, once that hardens on there, the only way to get this lid off is to smash it, and then that bottle of whatever it is, what you still have left, it's one-time use only. And someone gave me a tip. He said get some petroleum jelly, Vaseline basically, and take that and dab it around the edge. So basically it gives you a seal, and it keeps that head cement from getting in those grooves. And I've been using this now for 1.5 years, going on 2 years, and I have yet to glue the cap to the bottle. So it's kind of a nice tip. Just something else to keep in mind if you tie jigs and use head cement. That's about it. Hope all these tips help you.